Bama named its co-offensive players of the week. We're going to talk about all of the things that went into that 42-10 shellacking.
I like shellacking.
You like that? Shellacking.
Shellacking. They call it an ass beating. We call it a shellacking.
We're going to get into that right here on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. No offense, Badgers. We jumped around, and we're going to talk about that game more right here after this quick roll tide. All right, there he is, big, sexy Elmo. You know him as Brett Elmore from the Brett Elmore Show. I'm at Broadcaster Mick, just Mick Gillespie, a regular guy talking Alabama football with you guys every single day of the week. I mean, I'm on every day. I think there's too much of me right now, Brett, and I think there's Mick Gillespie fatigue across the world of Alabama.
Why would we get fatigued by you?
I mean, I feel like that. Like I feel like sometimes, like I'm like the Macarena of Alabama. Like there's just too much of me, and I think people are like, there's that guy again.
I wouldn't compare you to the Macarena. Maybe Who Let the Dogs Out or something
like that
like
one.
that.
Who did let the dogs out? Do we know?
I don't know. They never figured that out.
It's the question that has never been answered.
No, that's not.
Bama
welcome to the bye week. I mean,
this is what we talk about on the bye week. Who let the dogs out? Like literally, which one of you guys let the dogs out?
Hey, and let me ask you this. With the bye week, I was taking a look at the schedule for this week for Alabama football. They're not practicing again until Thursday.
Yeah, they need that. I mean, that's part of the bye week, man.
Right. Yeah. They're not practicing again until Thursday. Actually, they only have 2 practices scheduled this week. Thursday, they will practice. Friday, they will practice. And that's it for the week.
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of what a bye week is. You know, this is an early bye week, obviously, for Alabama. But we've got 2 this year. Rest up and then get ready for Georgia, you know? Yeah. And I think that this Georgia game is going to be really interesting. But I'm not really ready to kind of get into that yet because I feel like we got to talk about some other more important stuff, and that's the Wisconsin game and the way that things went down. Now, Alabama named its players of the week for Game 3. Offense skill, 2 guys. Jalen Milroe had 5 touchdowns. You can't not include him, but C.J. Dupree got it too, and that's pretty cool. Like that's blocking, that's being physical, that's doing all the things that you need to win. It doesn't necessarily include scoring and catching passes, but it does include being a great teammate. So congratulations to those guys. Offensive power, Caden Proctor, Tyler Booker, Parker Brailsford, Jaden Roberts, Elijah Pritchett. Well, who are those guys? Do you know, Brett?
They all play for Alabama. Oh, by the way, Milroe.
That's our offensive line, Brett. That's the starting offensive line.
Oh, is that the offensive line?
Yeah, it's the superpower.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
Yes, it's the offensive line, and they played well. They should have. But back to Milroe. Here's an interesting tidbit about this. With his 5 touchdowns against Wisconsin, 3 passing, 2 on the ground, Jalen Milroe has been responsible for 14 total touchdowns in just 3 games played this season. That is the most by any SEC player in the last 20 years. Last person to do it, Johnny Manziel back in 2012.
Wow. A Heisman Trophy winner.
And that Heisman talk starting to
hear it a little bit.
Starting to hear it a little bit.
Yeah, pretty good. I'm with you, man. And we'll get into that here in a second. Damani Jackson was the defensive skill guy. He's been so good at the cornerback spot. He's been the one thing that we knew we had, before everything else. What are the other guys going to do? LT Overton was the defensive power guy, easy pick, right? Special teams, James Burnup. James was like a J.K. Scott type of weapon. And then Jay Lindsay was our offensive scout. Defensive scout was Lane Wisenhunt. That's a football name for you right there.
Yeah.
And then Adam Thordsland was the special team scout. And those guys are really important, man. I love, I love bringing those guys up, talking about them, the walk-on guys, because those contributors on the scout team and their effort really help you get ready. And they're just as important to the team as anybody.
No, they are, and it's good to recognize those guys. Those guys don't get any, in the past really has no recognition. But when you play on a scout team, some of the lower tier players, no disrespect, but it's good to be recognized, and that's a great thing. You were talking about Overton. I mean, he recorded a sack and a subsequent fumble in the first quarter. That's both of his career there at Alabama. Played really well. You heard his name being called a lot, and we've talked about him, since the ball game. But LT Overton had a really good game. Deontay Lawson had a good game. He forced a fumble there in the third quarter. That was his first forced fumble in his career. Xavier Brown, his recovery of Moore's forced fumble was the first of his career.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. So
hey, look, it took that type of effort. I mean, they were forcing turnovers, they were flying around the field, they were, moving the ball, taking advantage of opportunities. There were some 3 and outs, but this team reminds me of Florida State with Bobby Bowden. If you mess around and you leave these guys in it, they're going to make some plays on you, and they're going to score in a hurry. And their explosiveness is what makes them so dangerous to me.
Yeah, and when you said they remind me of Florida State, I'm glad you said under Bobby Bowden.
The back in the day, Florida State.
Yeah, the back in the day, Florida State. The present day, Florida State's a dumpster fire. And let's not forget that the accolades for Milroe continued yesterday, as he was selected as the SEC Offensive Player of the Week.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, you scored 5 touchdowns, and that's a big deal. I mean, like 5 touchdowns in a game think about that. And it's
reminds
something
me of
that
my
he's done a
playing
lot.
days, I tell you. Did you play football?
I did play some football, yeah.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
I never played.
One of the things that I thought was interesting in the press conference yesterday is we haven't seen a lot of Kendrick Law as far as
Where's he at?
Well, he's been playing, and Kalen DeBoer said he's been really contributing, although he really hasn't caught a lot of passes. Or actually, it was Nick Sheridan, the offensive coordinator. I thought he played a fantastic game. He was physical on the perimeter. He's somebody that's important to our offense. Went on and on. It was like he's an excellent football player. What these guys are doing, and the reason that they're having so many explosive plays, is that they're buying in on the things that make the plays explosive. Mick may have the ball, but Big Sexy might go out there and block someone so that I can get through, down the field and score a touchdown. And you might not get credit for that initially, but I'll know, like, hey, man, I wouldn't have got there had you not gone out there and laid that block, and that's the way football works.
Yeah, it is. And, and he's contributing, but like we mentioned, earlier, we just got so many playmakers, man. There's so many people out there that can make plays, big plays. I think that this is a good week for a bye week. Going into this Georgia matchup, it's going to be a huge game, a night game.
Mm-hmm.
I know you don't want to get into it much, but But it's a good time, I think, early in the season because we got some guys that are nicked up already. I'll be really interested to see how we come out and play off of a bye week against a really good Georgia team.
Yeah.
Because remember, under Coach Nick Saban, when we came off a bye week, we normally played really, really well.
Right. And this is
and we would get like a bye week against LSU, which was a pretty big rival, and it seemed like we always played fairly well. It's an opportunity, and you hate to make comparisons, Mick, to Coach Saban and Coach DeBoer, but you're going to do that naturally. It's like now we see we saw how we played on the road against a really good team in a hostile environment. Now we get to see we got the number 2 ranked team in the country coming in to our home turf. How do we handle that?
Right. That's a great question. And do you think, Kane Womack kind of said, hey, some of the stuff that we thought we might need to use, you didn't use it because of the way that Alabama played. I wonder if that translated over to Nick Sheridan in the offense. And do you think Alabama's playing a little possum right now with Georgia coming in, knowing that, hey, man, we don't want to show all of our tricks?
No, you don't want to show all your cards. And I still don't think we have. We want to leave some doubt in their mind. There's going to be some wrinkles thrown into this game. This is a huge game. And this is a huge game for Coach DeBoer. Could you imagine getting your signature win like 4 games into the season? And you beat Georgia, you're on a fast track. But this starts this gauntlet of SEC games, and you never know what's going to happen from week to week. Just ask Georgia. They could have got beaten by Kentucky.
Yeah, it's the SEC, man.
It's the SEC. And you have always doubted Missouri.
I do. I'm not a believer.
You are not a believer, but I'm telling you, I think this sets up for a weird matchup in Tuscaloosa. I'm telling you, I'm afraid of that game.
The Missouri game?
I am. I just have a bad feeling.
Come on.
And folks, we'll probably jump in the comment section. So don't be worried about Missouri. Look, I'm telling you, it comes at a weird spot in the season. I'm a little concerned about that.
All right, let's just talk Georgia and Wisconsin. Let's not get too far.
I'm not. Yeah, I can't get ahead of myself here.
Saban would just be on you right now, and that's when I need angry Saban to straighten you out.
Well, I haven't seen Angry Mick yet.
Hey, you want to see me angry? Let me work all day without food.
Me too.
Get a little bit hangry. Okay.
I'm hangry over here.
42-10, Alabama was a winner, and we just keep on following it, see what's going on. But what I will say is this: next tailgate show, we're going to be at Innisfree, 1 to 4. Some of you guys have said, hey, we're going to come for the recording on Friday. We record the radio show Friday, 1 to 4. You guys watch it here, and then it airs across the state.
1 to 3, right?
Well, normally it's 1 to 3, but we're going to be there. It's a weird. We're not really going to start at 1. We're just going to be there at 1.
Oh,
I know.
I don't know what's going on. So
it's like 1:30 to 3:30 is probably when the show airs. But they got something else. We got to get off the stage. So anyway, come hang out with us. Roll Tide, everybody. Brett is going to probably bail because he hates sponsorship reads. But I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell. Sorry, Brett. I don't want to burn your ears now by thanking all the people that make the show possible. Okay.
Look, I love Pearl River Resort. I dreamed last night that my that $100 I put down on the sports book for Alabama to win the basketball championship hit. And I went to go get my ticket out of my cabinet, and it was blank.
They wouldn't honor it, like the company that I bought my TV service from.
They would honor it, but it's like it was blank. But I took a picture of it, and Anyway, no, they'll trip you good. Win on win.
All right. Well, look, we'll start with Pearl River Resort over in Philadelphia, Mississippi. There he goes. Alabama. You guys know that it's a short drive over there from Tuscaloosa and Birmingham. Table games and slots, roulette, which is normally where Brett's at. But they also got the Timeout Sports Lounge, which is at the Golden Moon Casino. 20 big screen TVs. They got 3 of the personal kiosks. They got the table, the window, if you need some help there. It's a fun bar to hang out, watch the games, put some money down. And if you spend $50 there, you can go play Dancing Rabbit Golf Course for just $40. So that's a really good deal. And it really is the Augusta that you can play. They also have Geyser Falls, which is their water park. They got the spa. And they've got some great acts coming up. Scotty McCrary, you remember him from American Idol. And then Gary Allen, who's a really famous, excellent country singer, celebrating 30 years at Pearl River. The other thing I want to tell you is that newlifeart.com, when you pimp out the man cave, use the promo code BAMA Tailgate to get those Daniel Moore prints. Always a great discount there. So when you go to New Life Art, Bama Tailgate, take advantage of that. All right. With all of that said, Big Sexy takes over after this.
To Pearl River Resort. They call him Big Sexy. Coming at you from the Walker County. Jasper is his hometown. He's known for giving free rundowns. Oh, Big Sexy. Throwing out those Alabama thoughts. Sneaking out your mom's window without getting caught. It gives you the XP, but Big Elmore is here to please. Big Sexy Elmore on the Bama Tailgate Show.
That's shameful. You know what? Now that the Booby Trap is up for sale, it makes me sad every time I see you're open.
We need to set up a collective and raise the $400,000 to buy the Booby Trap, and Mick and I will run the place with integrity and class like we are always known for.
Mm-hmm.
The Big Sexy intro may or may not, here in the next few days leading up, be heard by a very influential person. But we will wait to see. But guess what? Donald Trump may be coming to the Alabama-Georgia game. Did you see that?
Yeah, and he was at the Bama LSU game. I think he was at another Alabama game too. So he goes to a lot of MMA fights.
National championship game.
Oh, it was the national championship. Yeah. Hopefully the security will be better than it's been at some of his events lately. I mean, somebody shot at him at the golf course. He got hit in the ear in Pennsylvania. So I think he'll get, and you might not like this, Brett, he'll get probably a very warm reception at the football game. But I saw where he was talking about going.
Why would I be mad that he would get a warm reception?
I'm not saying I'll do this again.
Elvira is 73 today.
I loved Elvira. Look, you talk about Elvira, right?
Yeah.
And we call it Halloween here. I was at a Mexican restaurant. They were telling me that all the faces that they paint, that look cool, right? Just amazing. In Mexico, it's the Day of the Dead, where you dress up like a skeleton. But Elvira makes her cash right around Halloween. Like she might be on a beer ad, or she's on pitching candy, or she's on TV.
Yeah.
I mean, she's the queen of the night, I mean, or Halloween or whatever they call that. I mean, she's made a career out of that.
She
and I
was
got
the
to tell
Queen
you,
of Darkness.
or Queen of Darkness, whatever it is, but she's a very attractive lady still in her 70s.
At 73, would she be called a gilf? I mean, I'm just asking.
I'm not responding to that except with
Do you
the
want
word
to go
yes.
further? You want to go further down the
No. Just
okay.
I probably okay.
Rapper Dougie Fresh is 58 today.
Well, yeah, I remember Dougie Fresh. Yeah, those are you're going back now. When you start talking about these rappers that are all like older dudes, which is crazy. But
It's crazy.
I mean, yeah, Dougie Fresh used to have the box fade back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, Dougie Fresh celebrating a birthday today. If you're looking for something to celebrate, today is let's see, International Country Music Day.
I'm this, Brett. I mean, I'm a music person, man. I love music, all kind of music. Like I could go from Dougie Fresh to Waylon Jennings, in the same day. Probably not in the same playlist, but the same day.
Yeah.
I'm not I don't know. I'm not one of these people that's going to sit here and make fun of new country, because there's some old school people like our friend, the late great Bull Corey, that would just take shots at people like Morgan Wallen and Jason Aldean, and he didn't like I don't know, any of those kind of guys, but I like them, man. I think they're good. It's not the same country that it used to be, but it's still good music. Chris Stapleton's great, and I think probably my favorite of the new ones is Jelly Roll, man. I like Jelly Roll.
You like Jelly Roll? I like Tyler Childers. I'm a Tyler Childers fan.
I like him too.
Today is National Pawpaw Day.
I had a Pop, and I had a Daddy John, but I never had a Pawpaw. I mean, like, is the Pop Day coming? And even though I didn't call him Pop, I called him Pop, just because that's what I called him.
Yeah.
Pop squared.
I think they'll probably have a day reserved for themselves. My dad was a pawpaw to my son, so it's National Pawpaw Day today. Today is also National Professional House Cleaners Day. Mick, what are you going to do for your maid?
I treat her really well. I give her the same treatment that Arnold Schwarzenegger gave his maid.
All right, and it's also a VFW Ladies Auxiliary Day. Ladies Auxiliary
I don't have a
Day.
maid, by the way.
I love the ladies from the VFW.
I do too. Like I told you, I'm involved with the American Legion. Anyone that spends their time giving back to our servicemen and women means a lot to me. And I think we've talked about this many times on the show. My son's named after my friend from Alabama that gave his life for our country in one of these wars that I don't even know what we were fighting over. But you know what? He's still dead. And I think about him every day. And the guys that came back, they're dealing with emotional issues and other stuff, other trauma. And so the VFW and the Legion and those organizations, they do a great job just to make them have a community, to give them a community, to make sure that they have like somewhere they can go. So anybody that does anything for our veterans is way up on my scale, man. God bless America and God bless our veterans.
Well, I told you, and I gave him a shout out. Met the guys from the VFW, the local post here in Jasper, who watches the show, and always appreciate them. 1899, this day in history, Charles Pillsbury, the founder of Pillsbury, passed away.
Man, I'll tell you what, the scariest part of my life was when I lived in New Jersey, and not too far from New York City. And, that whole outbreak happened with the ghosts, and they had that giant, the giant Pillsbury doughboy was like walking down the streets in New York, and everyone was scared. And Just thank God those Ghostbusters came and killed that thing, because it was really nerve-wracking. The thing was huge. It was as big as the buildings. Awful.
Hank Sr. was born this day in 1923. Mick, put it in the ashtray. All right. Put it in the ashtray.
It's the movie Ghostbusters, okay?
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, just
and I
throw that
love
out there.
it too, because I just have to bust you. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I just have to bust you.
You say that, and people really believe you, by the way. Don't believe anything he said, because people have asked me that before. Look, you really
ask me what?
ashtray? If I'm really like in here, and I'm in a hotel, like you can't do that here. All right. So what did you say? Oh, Hank Sr. Hank Sr.
You're in a hotel. You can't do that there.
Yeah, look at this place.
What
Hank
the hell are you
Sr.
talking about?
Hank Sr.
That's probably why it's like International Country Day.
Like I'm gonna give you the view. You ready?
What's the view here?
This is the view from my hotel right now.
Well, see, I was going to ask you because I saw a camera mounted at your window, and I was like, what is this nut job doing? No.
And I'm going to get back to Hank here in a second, but we've been taking such great care of at Wilderness at the Smokies, and they've been fantastic, while we've been here. And they gave me a cabana, but this is actually my room. But this place, they just did like a $40 million renovation here. And they've got 3 water parks. They've got a rooftop bar with a pool on it. It's called Peak Rooftop Bar and Eatery. They've got the Lookout Lagoon up there. They've got the water park. But the water slides are great, man. Like, I get up there with those kids, and I mean, I'm like a kid too. Like going down. They've got a lazy river here. They've got a water coaster. They've got an indoor water park. They got an outdoor water park, and then you got the views of the Smokies. I wasn't even going to bring this up, Brett, but you kind of forced me to do it. So thank you to Wilderness at the Smokies for the great accommodations. Thank you. All right.
Wow. I've been there before, and no, they are great. I mean, seriously. Hank.
Wait, hold on.
What?
Hank. Like when, I see Hank. Is Hank from Sylacauga? I know when I'm driving down Interstate 60.
Montgomery.
Okay, Montgomery. He's buried in Montgomery. I'm driving down 65, and it's the Hank Williams Memorial Highway. My buddy Chris Klein and me, we one day right there in Prattville, before you go across the bridge, we just pulled over. We wanted to get our picture taken with the Hank Memorial, interstate sign, right? So we're out there, and a cop pulls over. He's like, "What are you guys doing?" And we're like, "Well, we want to get our picture with the sign." And the guy was like, "Okay, well, just seeing what you're doing, And I guess at this age, every time I drive by that sign, which I do now a lot, I'm always thinking like, man, I'm crazy, because that's dangerous to stop, when people are going 100 miles an hour. But Hank was one of the creators of country music. And we talk about Hank Jr. all the time, but Hank Sr. was kind of one of the really initial greats of the music. My grandmother, Graham, hopefully there'll be a National Graham Day, but she used to listen to that in her car, and I'd be in there, and it'd be like, Hank Williams and the Hank Snows of the world, all these like old time country singers and stuff. So I know a lot of them from her.
Yeah, he was quite the character. I know that. 1953. This is right up your alley, Mick. Ernie Banks becomes the first Cubs black player.
Yep, Mr. Cub. I knew Mr. Cub. Ernie, great guy. When you deal with the amount of, let's be perfectly honest with you, with the racism that he had to deal with every day, and you still have that positive energy, and you're still someone that is not angry and isn't holding a grudge and treats everyone with respect and dignity and honor, that takes something, because I don't know that I could do that. But that was Mr. Cub, Ernie Banks. He's the first Cub to hit 500 home runs. He is still the Cubs. Like they did a poll who the most famous Cub is, he was the guy. But I met him. and I really loved him. And I mean, he's one of the Mount Rushmores of baseball players in my mind.
And finally, 1994, Miss Alabama is crowned Miss America.
Yeah, what was her name?
Was that Heather Whitestone?
I think it was, right? Didn't she have like kind of like a hearing issue or something?
She was. I think she was deaf. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She was, but you know what? She made the most out of it. And in life, sometimes you're not dealt the deck of cards that other people are. Maybe sometimes you start the race a little bit further. You may have a disability. Maybe you grew up and you didn't have much money. You're poor, or you dealt with whatever. But the thing about life is, how are you going to deal with it? Ernie Banks dealt with it, with the racism and all that stuff, and he ended up being the most famous Cub ever. You know, she dealt with obviously disability, not being able to hear, and made the most out of it. But we all have to deal with those things in our lives. And it really is phenomenal. Ray Charles couldn't see, and he's still one of the greatest musicians ever, right? So
absolutely, yeah.
Congratulations to her. Doesn't seem like that long ago, but 94 was a while.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that long ago. And I actually come from a family that deaf people, I have several members of my family who are deaf. My mother was the only hearing child that my grandparents had. Her other two sisters were deaf. And so both of my aunts are deaf, and I know the sign language. And
give us some sign language. Say "Roll Tide" in sign language.